It's Ayana.
It's Nelly,
Hey, it's Tracy.
and this is Word on the Street podcast.
So today we are presenting uh, a few questions that we interviewed a few people inspired by Viafua Prince's book, Ken. One of our favorite parts was a one-act play period where three friends, lifelong friends, travel to the Caribbean and they reminisce about shared and unique experiences. And this inspired two questions, and we decided to go around and interview family and friends. The first question is about what is motherhood to you? And the second question is why are women not getting married as young?
It's a beautiful thing. I've been a mother since I've been 15 years old, and I'm 43 years old. I have four kids, and it's beautiful, but at the same time, it's a little stressful. The kids always need mom. No matter what age they are, they're always going to need a mom.
You have the responsibility for that child.
Mm-hmm.
Once you come into their life, you should not try and come in halfway and act like, well, you're not still really mine.
Right.
Because there's going to be repercussions down the road when you don't commit to that. So as long as you're committed, I don't see a problem with it. Even if the child was adopted as a baby or you adopted the child when they were 10, you have to be committed to that child and want to see it through because they're not toys.
Right.
And it has changed, but I don't look down on people who adopt because if they're going to give them a loving family and they're not adopting them, to have them work or just to be a prop and say, I have a child, we have this instant family. So I think it's not just honorable, it's a big commitment because once you start, it's not like you can take this child back.
So what motherhood looks like to me is someone who is not selfish, someone who don't prioritize themselves as high as they used to. Before I was a mom, I would just think about myself, but now that I am a mom, everything I do is for my child. So me having a good job, I do that all for my child so he can have a great life. Being a mom is knowing how to have patience and being able to show my child what love looks like and how to be strong.
So, ladies, I think there were some really interesting perspectives brought up, between these interviews, just like with those ladies in period, where they all had different opinions on what is and what isn't motherhood or the depth of motherhood, giving birth, adoption, step parenting. I know, my mom was talking about adoption, particularly being a sensitive topic, in the Black community and other communities. What do you guys think?
That's why I think it's such a good question too, because like it ties into the family tree of the book in a way, because it was one of the people she was talking about how she adopted and like she felt like she felt like her motherhood was taken away by them making that statement. And I feel like in the Black community, that is maybe not just in our community either, it might be other ones where it's like adoption is not talked on like, nicely. That does kind of take away from your motherhood, but like kind of like my sister said and your mom and Nellie's mom said, it's all about just how you treat that child and what that child means to you. It's like it's not so superficial. Like it's not like I only want this child to look good. It's like I love this child, and like your mom has said too, like she may not have been able to give birth, so that's why she adopted, and so that's why I feel like that was a really good question.
Yeah, I mean, it is good, like how you guys said, like the three women, they have three different perspectives on how they feel womanhood is and how motherhood is in general. And like how you guys brought up about the adoption and how my mother brought up about like her view on raising us 4 kids, and age-wise even has a thing to do with it too.
I really like where that conversation was going. So let's see what the other people thought of the other question.
Education, access to their own finances. Yeah, education. Women are allowed to be educated now. We're allowed to have jobs. We have more rights and more freedom now than we have before, even though some people are trying to take that away. We have more rights. And so you don't have to be attached to someone at all, one, to survive in this world. And you definitely don't have to do so at a young age, because there's other things that people are doing in their youth, like we're going to college and starting businesses and starting careers, because it's more normalized.
Personally, I don't think a lot of women are getting married at a young age anymore, because times changed. They see more, people want to live more. Personally, I got pregnant at 17 and I didn't experience everything a teenager should experience. I also had a strict mom. So I started backwards and I started young, lived with my kid, the kid's father and everything. And a lot of people tend to fall out from the marriages eventually, even if they get married young. And I feel like the younger generation is catching on to how things really go, and they want to experience and learn more before they actually tie down to somebody.
I think women aren't getting married young anymore because as a society, we aren't so traditional anymore. I feel like, my grandparents' generation and maybe even my mother's generation, it kind of felt like they had to. And well, maybe not so much my mom's generation. I would say more of my grandmother's generation, because it was traditional. You get married, you have kids, boom, that's your life. And then I think with my mom's generation, that's when they started to break those barriers and started to create, their own lives, i.e. their careers, and choosing if they don't want to have kids, you know what I mean? So I think having that freedom, having the choice now is a reason why women aren't getting married. And I also think our standards are a bit higher than before. I feel like a lot of women essentially settle, whereas now we realize that we don't have to do that. And a lot of women are fine with getting married when they're older or not getting married at all, because the dating market is not the best, and marriage is a very serious thing. So I think a lot of women just want to take their time before they make that huge decision. And then some people could also argue that a lot of women are career oriented, so that's why, they don't want to get married. I myself, I am not interested to get married at all. It's literally the last on my priorities, and that's because I just realized how big of a commitment that is, and I'm not ready for that. And also, I have other things in my life that I want to do, like traveling, spending time with friends, developing in my career, doing other things outside of marriage, because marriage doesn't define me.
Like, of the two questions that we did offer to them for this one, I feel like they like read the chapter, like they knew exactly what to say, what we were talking on, because I relate so much to what all of them were saying, because like also being a Black woman, it is like when you're in your 20s, it's looked upon like, oh, why don't you have kids yet? Why aren't you married? Why aren't you settling down? It's like being a 23-year-old Black woman. I'm not 23 yet, 22. In like 2 months I'll be there. But being a 22-year-old Black woman living in America, it's like I've seen so much of what society has to offer for me. And it's kind of like, I don't want to have to settle down. And also, why does society look at like, I don't mean anything until I do settle down? And we can kind of see that with the recent election, that was also like, that stigma was put in there a lot. But society has changed so much that I just don't feel like I have to get married to, like, be Ayana. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
that doesn't need to be my title. I want my title to be
Right.
something in my field of what I'm graduating college for,
Absolutely. No, I agree. I mean, I'm 51, and even in thinking of, what my sister was saying, we're 20 years apart, but I was married, and I got married at 30, and a lot of people, at my age, at that age time, were saying that's so late, and are you going to be able to have kids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, this is just, all that you need to aspire to type thing. But then I think back to my mom. She had me at 15, and the parents are like, "Oh, you're pregnant, you have to get married. Doesn't matter if you have any other plans, you got to do this now." So yeah, it's a lot has definitely changed.
That went along with their religious values too, definitely in like not so much just the Black community, but also in like a lot of other communities. It was like, if you get pregnant early, you got to go repent and go get married quickly. Like that was the only option that a lot of people in our community were given, is like, oh, you had young, you were experiencing this happen, it doesn't matter, you like be forced to do that, or you were not welcomed in your home anymore.
Right.
Exactly how you guys said. Exactly. Like, and like the Hispanic culture, for instance, they have this main thing set priority of you get married, then you have a kid. But if you have a kid first, you have to hurry up and get married because you just broke the first rule. And how you said and mentioned about the like how presidential debates and stuff, how it came to be, we now have to think about like, oh, if we end up having a baby, what's next? Are we gonna get any of the financial needs we're gonna need for the kid? What about the schooling? Everything goes on and on and on.
And I feel like it really ties with like the whole kind of our conversation, just this whole conversation ties into the family tree of the book. Definitely this chapter. That's why I really like that we chose to choose period, because again, it was 3 women talking about showing like, how why they did get married or why they didn't get married. Like we're talking about now, like the whole reason of why like we're not getting married, why people didn't get married or why they did. And I really like this chapter of this book. So
definitely agree.
Yes, it's definitely very stimulating, and funny, sad. I mean, just everything, the things, and very relatable. Even think about it, just with the 3 of us, and just very relatable. And think of them, being, at this age, at their age, or my age.
And I'm gonna say, when I think about it too, it's like the stigma that is put on women that like, if because you got pregnant, you have to now go do this and you have to do that. And that's kind of like now, but like us women we're perceived as like we can only do one thing, which is like, have the child and get married. But we look at the world differently now that we've seen what's out there for us. So it's kind of like that's not gonna hold us down. And I think that's kind of like a good thing now.
Yeah, definitely. And it doesn't, I think it doesn't even necessarily mean, even look at different people, everyday people and celebrities, with the array of choices, having access, but they may even down the road decide that they want to have kids or adopt kids, but still pursue the dreams that they wanted, that they now have more access to.
Yeah. I think Black womanhood and womanhood in general is just persevering through life. And that's what a lot of this book depicted too, is just like the women and the people just persevering through life and just trying to make their ways without any trouble, or if there is trouble, trying to get through it.
Right. Knock down, get back up, keep climbing.
Exactly.
These were very good topics. So again, this is Ayana.
This is Nelly.
It's Tracy.
And thanks for watching
Word on the Street.